Okay. So we're looking at this example. In case you just joined us, it's example 2 with this company has a total revenue. I just put it on the bottom of the page, so I rewrote it on the top. So it wants to know what production level will produce a maximum revenue. Well, the word maximum revenue tells you to find derivative of revenue and set equal to 0. That's something you need to know every time you see a maximum. Take the derivative, set it equal to 0. So what is the derivative? Negative 3x squared plus, what is that, 900x plus 52,500. All right. Now we're going to set it equal to 0, right? I'm just going to put equals 0. But you notice that there's a number in front of the x squared. How can we make that easier? Can you factor out that number? Can you factor out a negative 3? It makes your life a little easier. Any time that you can factor out, it makes it easier for you, right? Because we can divide out that negative 3. So now you have 2 choices, right? You can plug this into your calculator and ask your calculator for the zeros, or you can factor. I would prefer to factor, but I'm fast at it. So y'all do this whichever way you want. You want it equal to 0. Of course, we could divide out the negative 3. So negative 3 is gone. Plug that into your calculator and find where it crosses the x-axis, right? You ask your calculator for the 0. So y'all go in and do that. I'm going to factor because I'm fast at it. When I see a number like this, I'm pretty sure 50 or 100 go into it. So you go in and find the zeros in your calculator, and x equals 350 or negative 50. Now, are we going to accept both of those answers? It's asking me for how many units I should produce. So which one of those answers doesn't work? Yeah, this doesn't work because it's saying X is the number of units produced. So that's extraneous. I'm not going to keep it. I can't produce negative 50 things. So X equals 350 units. Is that all good? Okay. Now we have one new fella to introduce to you. You haven't seen him before, right? So on your paper brain, let's bring this guy in. A company estimates that the cost in dollars of producing X units can be modeled by this. So this is cost, right? Capital C is a cost. Find the production level that minimizes the average cost. Now, minimizes means you're going to take the derivative and set it equal to 0. But it says average cost, and this is just cost. How do you find average? If you wanted to find your average test score, what would you do? You'd add up and divide by how many? Which part of this represents how many? The X, right? X tells you how many. So what do you have to do? What do you have to divide by to get average cost? You have to divide by X, right? I would say the same thing for grades. Add them up and divide by X. If it's 20 grades, divide by 20. If it's 30, divide by 30. So there's a symbol, though, for average cost. Average cost is represented by C bar. We call it C bar. And I think you should add that to the bottom of your brain. Average cost is C bar, and C bar is cost divided by X. So you want average, and you know to find average, you have to divide by however many there are, right? And X tells us how many there are. It's really important that you make that connection. Every time you find an X on these problems, you're finding out how many units is that? Okay, so I'm going to say C bar equals right? And we have to divide by X. Now, rather than writing one big X, which makes it difficult for me to split it up, I'm just going to divide every term by X. That's what average means. We have to divide. So now C bar equals, I'm going to write down 800 X to the negative 1, because we know we're going to take the derivative and set it equal to 0, right? That's what minimize means. So I'm going to clean this up. Oh, look at these are nice. They cancel, and that's going to make that a 1. There we go. We now have C bar. Remember what C bar means? Average cost. So now it says minimize average cost. So what are we going to do with average cost? Tell me what minimize means, everybody. Take the, y'all got to talk with me. Take the derivative, set it equal to 0. And make sure you're keeping your mask on if you're in here. Griffin, mask. Okay, so now why am I writing down this bar? Average, and I want someone to know this is average, not just cost. This is average cost. So maybe, is it possible that in certain weeks, it might cost me more to produce something than other weeks? Yes, right? Right now, if I need gasoline to do my work, right? It's costing me more this week than last week. When I drove this weekend to Denver, it was much more expensive to fill up in Colorado because their gas was much higher. But if I wanted an average price for the trip, it would change. So average comes in very handy, right? And the costs can go up and down. Okay, so what's the derivative of 800x to the negative 1? Negative 800x to the negative 2. What happens at 0.04 when you take the derivative? It's gone. Right? So we took the derivative, and now we're going to set it equal to 0. I'm going to say equals 0. That's easier. And then we'll say 0.0002 equals 800 over x squared. Right? Now we'll multiply both sides by x squared, divide by 0.0, And now we'll divide by 0.002, so we'll have x squared equals what? And how do we fix that? How do we unsquare the x? So what does x equal? Punch that in. Go, go, go.
Miss Coughlin,
Yes, ma'am.
could you show the average cost for me that you wrote on that sheet of paper so I could just write that down real quick?
It's divided by x.
Okay.
D divided by x. You're welcome. Let's see, 2 goes into 8 4 times. Square root of 4 is 2, so move it over 3, 2,000. Did y'all get that? So this says find the production level, right? So 2,000 units. If I'm making calculators, I'm going to make 2,000 of them, and that's going to give me the minimum average cost per unit, right? Okay. Is everybody good with that one? I'll be good. Okay, this one looks familiar. We did this on day one, but we're doing something else to it. Same problem, but we're going to kind of add to what we knew. A business sells 2,000 for $10, $2.50 more for a 25-cent reduction. That's whenever you see units at a price, and then if you reduce them, remember that brings us back to this fella, right? Right here. If you have 2 points, okay? So on this one, we know we sell 2,000 if we charge 10. And remember, Y is the price, right? We wrote that down. I know that if I can sell 250 more, so 250 plus 2,000, 2250 for a 25-cent reduction. So I'm going to take $10 and take 25 cents off, right? So that essentially gives us 2 points. And what are you inclined to do when you have 2 points? Write the equation of a line. So first we need the slope. What is the slope? I'm going to give y'all a second. Y'all figure out the slope. Everybody do it. I should see pencils going. Come on. 10 minus 9.75 over 2,000 minus 2250. Y'all figure out the slope. Make sure you can do it. I want to see calculators going. Come on now. You know what that is. Write it down. I believe it's, oh no, my favorite pen's going dead. So then we choose one of the points and we write point slope formula, right? I like this point the best because I don't have to worry about decimals. So I'm going to say what? Y minus 10 equals negative 0.001 times X minus 2,000. Then y'all got to distribute the 0.001. Come on now. But it's really not Y. What should I be writing in place of Y for this problem? No, what do we call Y? It's really a P, isn't it? It's little p for price. Remember, your points are X1, P, X2, because this number in these types of problems is always the price, right? Y is the price. So what does this equal? Negative 0.001x. And then what's 0.001 times 2,000? 2, right? And then we'll add the 10 over. So what goes here? 12. So now I have the price.
Isn't it negative too?
No, a negative times a negative is a positive. So now I have a price. That's great. I have an equation for price. But what are we trying to do? Maximize what? Monthly revenue. So what is the revenue equation? R equals what? Well, but we don't have, when you have little p, what does R equal? Right? Remember from your brain sheet, we have profit equals revenue minus cost. We also have the formula that revenue equals X times little p. And right now we have little p. Make sure you have your brain sheet out. So R equals X times P. So I'm going to say R equals X times P. Right? Now we'll multiply through. R equals negative 0.001x squared plus 12x. Is everybody there with me? So now once we have revenue, it says maximize monthly revenue. I'm going to take the derivative and set it equal to 0, right? So I'm going to say 0 equals, what's the derivative? Right? So y'all solve that. Come on. You should be able to do this with your head. What's 2 divided by 6? Sorry, what's 12 divided by 2? 6. And I got to move the decimal over how many places? 3. Okay, just do it on paper. But if you want to do it in your head, it should be pretty quick. Because 12, right? Now, are we done with the equation? What did we find? Okay, we found X. What does X always represent? The number of what? Units. Tells you how many you're going to make. So if we're going to make 6,000, what price will maximize revenue? What do I need to do with that 6,000? Need to plug it into price. Right? So that's going to be -6 plus 12. Y'all actually punch the numbers in. Come on. All right. So put that in your mind. X always finds out how many of these things you want to make. Once you find X, if you want to know how much do you charge with these 6,000 things that you made, you have to put the X into price. The price tells you what you should charge. I should charge $6 each for my little gadgets. And what's that going to do for me? Maximize my revenue. What does that mean? Means how much money's coming into my cash register, kind of how many I'm selling, right? It's not telling me if that's doing anything to cost or profit. It's just, I want to bring in money, right? Here we go. Charge $6 for your little gadgets, and you're going to basically sell the most. Does that make sense? Is everybody clear that when you solve for X, you're finding how many of the things should you sell, or how many of the things should you make, or any of those other things? Okay. If you want price, you got to plug it into price. Little p is price. Everybody got that? Okay. Let me have a couple more, y'all. No, this is our last prop. Oh, our last one. Oh, sad. Okay. Let's see if y'all can walk me through this. Now let's read and look for context clues. The marketing department of a business has determined that the demand function for a product can be modeled by P equals 50 over the square root of X. Now remember, that is a small p. What does that represent? Tell me what little p represents to you. Price. Right? That's the price. So if I knew how many I was going to make, I'd know what to charge. This tells me what I should charge. What price should I set? Now the cost is right here. What price will yield a maximum profit? So what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to figure out what X is, right? So how many should I make? And when I find out what X is, I'm going to have to plug it in there, and that's going to tell me what I should be charging. True? How do I find profit? What's that formula? What does profit equal? Right? Profit is revenue minus cost. Now, you know cost. It's right there. But you don't know revenue. Where do I get revenue? What does revenue equal? X times little p. If you know little p, you can find revenue. So we're going to have to find revenue. So X times P. Now I'm going to rewrite P like this, right? The square root of X means the 1/2 power, and if it's in the bottom, it's negative. So this right here is X to the first, right? And when you're multiplying, you add exponents. So what is 1 plus negative 1/2? So I now have revenue. Since I have revenue and I have cost, can I find profit? Yes, not too hard, right? So profit equals revenue minus cost. We always want to use parentheses. If we don't use parentheses, we're going to forget to distribute that minus. right? This is going to give me profit. I want maximum profit. And what does maximum profit mean? Take the derivative of profit and set it equal to 0, right? True? Okay, here we go. 1/2 times 50 is 25. That's not too bad, right? Flip it over. Right? X to the negative 1/2 is the square root in the bottom. So I'm going to square root of x equals 25 over 0.5. What is 25 divided by 0.5? Come on, y'all. How many times 5 go into 25? 5. So what is 25 divided by 0.5?
1.5.
Punch it in. Punch it in.
Oh, yeah, fast. That's just like times 2.
Yes. I'm seeing how long it takes to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do you undo a square root? And what's 50 squared? There we go. But what does X tell you? That's not the answer to the question. That's how many units. If I produce 2,500 units, I'm going to maximize my profit. That is the truth. But what does the question ask? What price will do that? So I've got to take my price now and put in how many units. I got to go back to my price formula. And what is, we already know the answer to that. What is it? What's 50 divided by the square root of 2,500? What's the square root of 2,500? It's 50. What's 50 over 50? 1. $1 it is.